Hi, Alex Fortey here, The Art of Simple Golf. I want to give you 3 of the best, potentially my favorite drills to be able to control the club face. Being able to control the club face is going to, well, obviously help you with consistency. But sometimes having a couple of tasks and some awareness is going to really transform the way you strike the ball and your understanding of how to strike the ball consistently. So I'm going to show you 3 drills. One of them in particular is actually perfect for out on the course and something you should pretty much do every single shot you hit. Let's get into it. Drill number 1. When we're swinging, with the people I teach, a lot of times they're so focused on lots of other things going on in the golf swing that they forget that the ball doesn't know what you've done previously. Yes, there's things that we can do to make it more efficient and easier, but really a lot of it boils down to a reliable, consistent impact. So this drill is going to, one, create awareness, but give you the feel, in addition, of where you actually want to be at impact to be able to deliver the club squarely. Because if we're too focused on making a bigger turn and swinging faster, the club face can often stay open. It can often flip through this way because we're just trying to do too much. But once you realize that you can get more accuracy and even power by being able to deliver this club head more consistently where we want it to be, you're going to hit it better. And the way we're going to do that is actually very simple. What we're going to do is recreate our ideal impact position. If you don't know exactly what that might be, just think about it very simply. We want the club face to be more or less square at impact here. We want our body to feel dynamic because everything is moving this way. We don't want to be totally square and lazy with the body, right? That's not an ideal impact position. Feeling when the club face is at impact, but our body is too open, that doesn't feel very reliable. It feels from there I'm going to swish the hands through. So I want you to try and toy with a few different impact positions, not just with the club face, but with how much shaft lean we have. And also then, where do we want the body? With an iron, for example, we want a bit more weight on the front side. I want my hips to be open just a little bit to be able to allow my hands to pass through, but I can feel my energy transfer is moving up and through here. There's very little when it comes to being in my own way. And when we're doing this at speed, it becomes quite hard to repeat that. So what we're going to do is almost exaggerate our perfect impact position. More shaft lean, a little bit more weight on this front side, staying centered there. Does that look what you would think is a good impact position? It's not going to be here. It's certainly not going to be here. It's not going to be here. Rehearse your ideal impact. And what we can do from there, right? We got that nice shaft lean. We've got a straight line moving down. What we can do from here is just make little swings, almost chip shots, to create that dynamic ideal impact position. Perform this impact drill as much as you can and just work on little movements, building up your speed to hit it a little bit further. And gradually you can start to ingrain this into your full swing. You won't have to think about it quite as much. Now, to make sure that we're getting there a bit more efficiently and we know that this impact is correct, we can use the HackMotion to tell us exactly what we want happening with the lead wrist. I've got the latest HackMotion device here. It's lighter, it's more sensitive, and it's able to calibrate even more details for what we need for that ideal impact position and club face control. So using the app here, we're going to start practicing. We're just going to go to the most basic guided practice. And you can see in actual fact, last time it was helping a student with too much flipping. Now, what we're going to do is going to start practice, and it's going to make me calibrate it first. So I'm going to make sure my wrist is in position. I'm going to lift my arm. Check. Perfect. Okay. Now what we're going to look at here is we're going to hit some shots. But what we're looking for, to be able to create, as I said, some awareness earlier, because we often get too focused on how far we want to hit it, or much bigger things that are happening at different points in the swing. When the nuts and bolts of it, we can really boil it down to a couple of factors. One is where we are at setup, because if we're too strong or have the club too far back here at setup, we're going to have to do compensation. So the HackMotion device can really help us create a consistent, less manipulation required setup. Then we have the backswing position. Again, if we have too much going on here, it's going to be harder to deliver this club with consistency, because whatever the wrists are doing, the club face is doing. So that's how we can get more control. We can't focus on the club face without the wrists working in our favor. Because if we start to try and use the body too much to square it up, we're making work a lot harder for ourselves to get a square club face at impact. So it's going to help us with having too much extension or too much flexion. From the top here, we're going to make sure that our impact is delivered correctly. Not too much extension and flipping, not too much flexion here where we've got too much bend and holding off that way. So we can tie this in to the first drill that we showed you, which was trying to get into that nice little impact position. And let's see what this looks like just by doing a little chip shot. Okay, what it's telling me is that impact, I was actually too extended still. So I can now use that as a guidance. I'm not paying too much attention to what it's doing at the top because I'm only swinging to about here. So if I was to complete my swing, the wrist movement would be a little bit more complete. So I'm not paying too much attention to that data. However, I can refine my impact position and see if I can get a little bit more flexion this time. Still too much extended. This is tough, but that's the point. We can work on it to keep getting it just how we want. So I'm going to set up. Now there is a difference with this because we're setting up a bit more dynamically. It's also going to change the setup measurements. So it might appear that we're a little bit too extended when we're not, just because we're starting here. If I was to start here and then impact, that range would show a bit more flexion, just because it's in a comparison, it's relative. But let's try again. So I'm actually going to set the wrist back a little bit, so then dynamically I can add the flexion. So I'm going to get the hips open a little bit more, feel like I'm pressing into the ground a bit more. I'm just not letting the hands go forward, but I'm just going to swing back, there. And there we have it. Both of those were perfectly in range. And you think, well, that's going to be easy to do it at this point in such a small space, if you will. We're just doing little shots. But here's the thing, the better you get at that, it's going to become part of your full golf swing. So when you do come to actually hitting shots all the way back and down, you're going to be able to deliver that club where you've rehearsed for these little chip shots. You won't be flipping it or whatever it might be. You're not going to have so many variables because you know where to get to, where you want to get to impact. We're not trying to do too much with our bodies. Get better at the small things first, and you will see better club face control and straighter shots. Now, onto the last one that I talked about that's going to help you on here, on the range and out on the course. Club face control is only relative to where we want the ball to go. But subconsciously, we can do a lot more in controlling what is happening here, not just by thinking about what the wrists are doing, but by our intentions. So with every shot you have, you need to have intentions for it. If you're not specific in what you're trying to accomplish, you're going to struggle. And the way to practice this, a drill, is to grab a T-peg. And we're going to pick out a target, doesn't really matter what, and we're going to place this T-peg about a foot in front of the ball, okay? With this T-peg here, it's going to help us create an intention that is in line with where we want the stupid ball to go. And be able to control the club face to maintain that direction just a little bit longer. It doesn't mean that we follow it all the way up this way, but it gives us an objective that when we stand further back, knowing that we want this club face to be going along that path, we don't want it to go over there, we don't want it to go over there, we don't want to be swinging across this way, we don't want to be swinging across that way. We're really simplifying it. And the way I suggest we start with this is actually with the pre-impact drill that I showed you in the first step. And of course, using it in the second with the HackMotion is great. But this is a constant that we always need to apply, not just on the range, but on the golf course too. Every shot you hit has to have an intermediate point. It tells your brain, it tells your swing where you want to go. And just by having that alone, you can have more consistency without really trying to do anything to your technique. Just by doing this, you are going to, in short, be able to create awareness and create more consistency with that club face control. So whether you have a drive, an iron, a chip, choose an intermediate point. Stand behind it, a foot in front of the ball, place your club down, and that's where you're going to be aiming, but also your intention to swing past that through the impact. Those three things, those three drills are going to give you excellent club face control. Thanks for watching. Now, if you want to improve your game with a variety of different drills to give you more consistency and power and understanding of the golf swing, in the description below there's a link, and that's going to give you some fantastic videos and lessons to help your golf game today.